What's up? What's going on? And welcome in to Pels and Whistles, presented by BetOnline right here on the Believe Network. I'm Daniel Salerson alongside Rel Myers, and we have a lot to unwrap here on this Wednesday. Unfortunately for the Pelicans, they fall to the Golden State Warriors last night, 120 to 109. Since we last talked, they did win the first couple games on the road trip. We already talked about the Clippers game, but they did beat the Portland Trail Blazers on Monday night and then looked like they were going to win their third straight on this road trip. But again, a fourth quarter to not remember as they lose 120 to 109 to the reigning champion Golden State Warriors. So they stay in eighth in the Western Conference. One more game on the road trip, and that will wrap up Thursday night against the Denver Nuggets. And that one also will be televised on TNT. So, Rel, we have so much to talk about with not only this Golden State game, but of course the Portland win, which was a good one for this team just to kind of give them that momentum heading into Golden State. And early on against the Warriors, it looked like they did carry that momentum as they were looking really good in that first half.
It did. They looked great, and they we're always looking for them to come out strong instead of the weak starts that we've seen so many times. And I felt really good about the first half. And we're not a great third quarter team, and the Warriors are a great third quarter team. So yeah, it kind of it might have fooled a couple of people when they saw that first half, and they're like, hey, we're up by 17 or so points, we can really pull this off. So once the momentum got on to Golden State's side, that was kind of all she wrote.
Absolutely. And all she wrote on my wager on this game last night, I was telling you beforehand, I thought I had the perfect one lined up. Everything was looking good. I had Pelicans plus 8.5. I had Steph Curry over 28.5 points. That was easy. And Brandon Ingram over 26.5. He had 26 through three quarters. Did not score once in the fourth.
Oh.
So I'm going to have to get back on Bet Online and make another wager for Thursday night as they remain your number one source for your college basketball betting this season. The Final Four is here. You'll find the latest odds, a bracket contest, and plenty more game trends as well. Updated odds for this weekend's Final Four and championship game. It's your college basketball headquarters this season. Head to the website, use your mobile device to sign up and receive 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. Be sure to use the promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, to receive your bonus. BetOnline.ag, where the game starts. So I don't know if you put any money on the game last night, Rel, but I was
I
so
thought I did. I
disappointed
forgot.
because I had another separate bet just for them to cover because I texted you yesterday. I was like 8.5. I go, the
Yeah.
disrespect. And then they
Mhm.
were up 20 and couldn't even cover the 8.5 as they lost by 11. Just a
Everybody said
really
it. Everybody's talking about that 8.5, man.
these bettors, I mean, these sports books know what they're doing, though. I mean, and
Yep.
that's why they are so successful because you look at it and go, it's in the bag. I mean, they're up 20.
Mhm.
What the hell happened in the fourth quarter in the middle of the third? It just everything just went downhill so quickly.
The Warriors happened, and then we had some weird lineups out there. We tend to trot out lineups where it forces BI to have to try to shoot over like three guys, and at some point, BI was doing his thing, and they decided, you know what, we're gonna switch up our defense. We're gonna play a box and one, and that caused things to look a little interesting out there too. And Kaminga is consistently hugging Brandon Ingram. He's
Yeah.
consistently got an arm around his like midsection, and it's just like, dude, these guys are allowed to just like tug on you like that and like literally just hold you on defense. And eventually, Brandon's just standing there, kind of like, well, unless someone's gonna come and like screen this guy off of me, like there's not really much I can do about that. So, and then you've got Draymond's antics, and that's playing into a lot of what's going on in the game. And that was just so frustrating to see because, we've had guys get ejected for yelling at a ref after they got like smacked in the head, and two quick texts, you're out of the game. And then Draymond can just sit there and just be yelling and yelling and yelling, and he's kicking guys in the head, whether it's on accident or not. And you still leave a guy like that in the game, and it just sets a horrible example for the officiating, really.
They're scared. They're scared to eject them.
Mhm.
That's the bottom line because he got a technical one like 20 seconds beforehand with a double
Yeah.
technical with Brandon Ingram.
Yep.
And I know Brandon kind of initiated that one. So I sort of understood what Draymond was getting at,
Mhm.
but they gave him the technical already. So no matter what, they gave him the technical. And
Yeah.
then you go ahead and that wasn't just a tussle. Like at the beginning, yeah, their legs tangled up. but there was some purpose behind a couple of those little leg kicks, and they
Yeah.
reviewed it. That's the thing. There is no way Draymond Green should have stayed in that game. If that was Herb Jones on the other end, I would have completely agreed if they kicked him out of the game. CJ McCollum, when he bulldozed Dante DiVincenzo, the right call.
Mhm.
That's a flagrant one. As that was not a basketball move. It got
Mhm.
physical. It got chippy. I love the poise from Herb Jones, especially after that
Yeah.
when when he's like, dude, you're about to get subbed out, man. Like, and he's like, what? He's like, yeah, you're about to get
He didn't
subbed
even
out.
realize it.
Didn't even realize it, and then got on the Steve Kerr about that. He got on the coaching staff about a charge that he thought should have been
Yeah.
reviewed. It was just it's frustrating
Yeah.
because not everyone is officiated the same way, and Draymond is a lot more demonstrative than others, and somehow that gives him the benefit of the doubt after one technical. It's like, all right, well,
Mhm.
we don't want it to affect the game, but it allows him to do more than what he should be allowed or anyone else should be allowed to do. So it was just frustrating that they did not take control of the game as much as I thought they should have.
Mhm.
And it seemed like I'm not sure how the Warriors. Everyone talked about how they responded to that, but
Yeah.
not in that time. I
No.
mean, because New Orleans still went out and still continued their lead and even
Mhm.
extended their lead after that. Maybe in that third and fourth quarter is really when they got fired up. But I don't think that part where Draymond gets the technical and then a little scuffle with Herb Jones is when the Warriors were fired up. If anything, I think it made it a little bit worse. So it's
Yeah.
it's it's frustrating. And at this point, again, consistency is the name of the game for officials, and it's just not there when it comes to technical fouls and ones that get rescinded. I mean, that would have been Draymond's 18th if he got ejected, which would have meant another suspension. Now he's still one away from
Yeah.
another one. That stuff impacts the final 6 games of the season. That could have easily
Absolutely.
impacted last night's game. And I'm not saying that's the end all be all
Mhm.
for why the Pelicans lost last night. But that's something that I don't understand when you go to the monitor and review that, how you don't see the recklessness of Draymond's legs there as he's trying to get up.
Hmm.
There was some intention there, and that's what's really frustrating about the whole thing.
It's it's the guy's reputation, you know. We've all seen it for like a decade now, and he gets away with murder out there, and it really is frustrating to watch. But at the same time, just the Warriors as a whole, they're the defending champions. Yeah, they've kind of sucked by their standards this season, but they still got a better record than us, and they beat us last night. So you know, if we couldn't hold on to a 20-point lead, that's on us. We got to figure out how to close games, you know. But there's not many teams that can withstand the second half Warriors. It just, I don't know. I'm not going to be super upset and dwell over this game like apparently a lot of people did last night. Once the Warriors took the lead and went up by like 6 or so, I turned the game off and went to bed. I was like, well, that's that.
Mhm.
But you know, I'm not going to lose any further sleep over this game, and I think we just got to move on to the next one. And I hate going into Denver. Um, because we always go out there and then people are like, oh, they look gassed, they look tired, oh, the altitude, yada yada yada, whatever. I think they're a good matchup for us, but they're also healthy, and we're missing 2 key rotational players, so I'm not really sure what to expect from that. But we have to move on and we have to focus on that game.
Yeah, it's just hard, and I get why fans were frustrated after last night just because of how winnable that game was. And I know it's
For
the
sure.
Warriors and the thing chance, but when you're up 20 in the first half, I know in the NBA, leads like that are not safe anymore. And there's so many teams that come back because of a game of runs, and especially with the hot shooting that the Golden State Warriors are able to do with Steph and Clay and others, that you
Hmm.
get that things can turn around so quickly and it's tough to play. But you can't go up 20, lose that lead not only, but how does your best scorer not score a point in the
Yeah,
fourth quarter?
that's tough.
Like, that's when you need him the most, is to finish this game off or at least keep it close. And the fact that he had 26 points heading into the fourth, and
Hmm.
that's what he had at the end of the game, pretty frustrating because he looked good early, got involved early, knocking down his jumpers. He was aggressive. And look,
Hmm.
between him and Herb and CJ, I thought they really kept their poise throughout a lot of that extra stuff that was going on with
Hmm.
them and the Warriors. And the cool thing was, I felt like a playoff game, and I felt like the Pelicans kind of needed that kind
Yeah,
of dose of a playoff like atmosphere, a playoff like type game, because
that intensity.
yeah, because these last 6 games should feel like playoff games. I mean, the way their schedule is coming to face the Denver Nuggets, who are still fighting for seeding and want to make sure they get momentum. As we mentioned on Monday, momentum is the biggest thing heading into the playoffs. Is if you have it, there's a good chance that you can make some noise. But if you kind of lack that, intensity and focus heading into the
Mhm.
postseason, it could be a quick stop for the Pelicans or any other team. So I thought there was some good and some bad to take away from it. Again, no moral victories when you're up 20, and hopefully could close out games like that. But was pleased with how they played for 3 quarters. But in the NBA,
Yeah.
it's 48-minute game, and so it's not a 36-minute game, and that's where last night gets very frustrating.
Yeah, I think, did you see did you see this video where, it's a bench reaction of the Pelicans after Clay hit that 3 that put them up
Yeah,
by, I don't know, 11 or so or something like that? I couldn't even be mad. I couldn't even be mad at what I saw because it was funny. It's like I wanna see more of that type of NBA content, and you just see, Jackson Hayes' face is kinda like, "Oof, that's tough," and
yeah.
look at Zion, and Zion's kinda like, "Damn." And there's 2 fans sitting at the very end of the bench, and the guy's got his phone up, and he's just waiting for the reaction for our bench.
He
And
knows.
it was fun. It was funny. Sucks that we lost, but it is what it
I mean, the
is.
Splash Brothers had more threes than the Pelicans combined. They had 13.
There
New
you
Orleans had
go.
12. And New Orleans shot well. 12 of 27 from threes,
Yeah,
no joke.
yeah.
44.4%. Just when they needed it the most. Trey had 3 early threes early on, only finished with 4, but had
Mhm.
21 points. I love Trey's confidence, and he doesn't lack the confidence, so I shouldn't even say like it's a new thing.
Yeah.
But he's just taken his game to a whole new level this month, the month of March. Saw the graphic on TNT last night. Think it's the 4th most threes in the month of March, and 2 of those guys are
Yeah.
Steph Curry and Klay Thompson.
Correct.
Now I'm blanking on the third person, but that's okay. But Trey
Mhm.
Murphy there was number 4. I just love the way he plays, but you got to get a little bit more from your bench in
For
these
sure.
situations. Larry with 8, Najee 6, Josh Richardson 7, Dyson Daniels with 2, and that 2 came very early on an alley oop, which was a nice play at the beginning of the game, but
Mhm.
can't go scoreless the rest of the game. Again, you're missing 2 pieces as you mentioned, but it was interesting to hear an update from Chris Haynes on Zion Williamson that he is ramping up
Yes.
the on-court activities. He had some rigorous workouts there in San Francisco. So again, not sure what's going to happen. The way he was reporting, it seemed like the last 2 games is when it didn't say 3 games. It was
Yeah.
when it gets really evaluated, there might be only 2 games to go. But again, if
That's the way
he's
I've
ready
been
to
looking at it
go,
too. I don't think he'd play for that Memphis game. That's supposed to be like reevaluation day or something. I don't think
yeah,
he'd play in that game. So I've been looking at it like he might play the last 2. And hopefully he does because we're still in the mix. So do what you can against Denver. Go ahead and, try to beat the Clippers again. Yeah, take care of business until you can try to get him back. But I think the other person that was missing in that graphic as far as the most 3-pointers in March, it might have been Buddy Hield. So I think it may have been. But
okay,
there was a graphic that NBA on TNT put up last night, a tale of 2 halves. So in the first half, in points, Golden State had 46. In the second half, they had 74 points. First half, 46% from the field. In second half, 58% from the field. Their 3-point field goals in the first half, they made 6. In the second half, they made 12. Their bench points in the first half were 8, and in the second half it was 22. And also the last thing is turnovers, 14 turnovers in the first half and 5 in the second half. So all that's just like that's the game right there. You can see exactly how they were able to come back from a 20-point deficit. They just turned up the intensity in the second half, and that's what good basketball teams are supposed to do. That's what championship teams are supposed to do.
yep, 74-46 in quarters 3 and 4. They were Pelicans were outscored. They scored 36 in quarter number
Ugh.
1. They scored 46 in the second half. So you can just tell the difference in the offense lacking. And again, when your shots are not falling or you get frustrated, that's when it trickles into the defense. And I think that's where the frustrations began. And again, all it takes is one run by Golden State, get that crowd back into it, and it's really all she wrote, not just for the Pelicans, but any team that goes
Mhm.
in there. So again, the Golden State Warriors are starting to play like, okay, the playoffs are here. We got to get going a little bit. And it certainly showed last night. But as we go through the standings here, Pelicans do remain in 8th. They are a full game behind Minnesota, who they do play the final game of the regular season. Golden State jumps to 6th by a half game because they've played more games.
Mhm.
Clippers are still in 5th. Pelicans are 2 games back now of LA. They do have another shot at LA. They are ahead of LA Lakers at 9 at 37-38, in Oklahoma City at 37-39 is 10th. Dallas at 37-39 at 11. Can we just first, before we deep dive into the standings and schedule, shout out
Mhm.
to the Charlotte Hornets, who in the last 4 games have lost to the Pelicans, beaten the Mavericks twice, and beaten the Oklahoma City Thunder. So the
Look at
Hornets
that.
really helping out that Western Conference playoff race more than we ever imagined, when this is a team that in everyone else's mind should be losing
Mhm.
every game
For
in order
sure.
to gain more ping pong balls. And look, I like it when teams are playing hard at the end of the year, no matter the record, because that's the way it should be. These guys are grown men. They don't go out there and say, "Hey, let's lose the ball game." Again, you can place teams in position to lose games based on who's available and what roster you throw out there. But the guys that are going to go out there are not playing to actively lose,
Right.
because especially those guys might not even be there next year. So it's like, why do I care if they get the number one pick or not? So PJ Washington goes off for 43 points, or someone else for a tanking team goes off. That's because they're not going out there and going, all right, guys, turn the ball over, travel, do whatever you can. It's no, they're
Yeah.
going out there to win the ball game. So I would
These
like
guys are
to,
working on highlights. They're working on highlight reels. They're
yeah,
auditioning constantly. Whatever you're doing, even if you got like a year or so, whatever left on your contract, whatever you're doing, it's part of your trade value. You're showing your team why they should keep you. You're showing another team why they should trade for you. So those guys want to go out there and hoop. And we know guys like Jackson Hayes go out there to get their highlights. They want those Instagram stories. But yeah, big shout out to Charlotte for that. And as far as when we're getting ready to get into the standings here, there's 3 big games tonight: Lakers at Bulls, Clippers at Grizzlies, and Timberwolves at Suns. And I think Kevin Durant is
he
back tonight. Is
back,
that right?
he back. Is supposed to make his home debut now. Make
Wow,
sure
finally.
there better be extra towels, extra ball
Hmm.
boys out there wiping every single speck of perspiration that
It
hits
better
that
be.
floor before he
It
goes out
better
there to
be.
warm up. While he's warming out, he needs to wrap his shoes in towels to make sure that he is good to go. There is no way he's going to fall again or miss another game because of that, especially when
Yeah,
that was going to be his home debut. So now
tough.
it is good for the Pelicans because his home debut is against the Timberwolves. But Minnesota
Hmm.
in the last couple of games have proven that that doesn't really matter. They've beaten Golden State. And
Man,
then a night that Sacramento had a chance to finally clinch a playoff berth for the first time in a bazillion years since
Buku Long.
Tamagotchis were a thing. I mean, they go out and beat Sacramento. So what are
Uh,
Minnesota doing? I don't
that
like
made
the
me
way they're
so mad. I don't like Minnesota.
no.
It made me so mad.
They're
And
always a
it's like
pain in the butt right now.
they are. It's like someone asked, um, they're like, "Hey, what did I miss something with Minnesota? Like, why does no one like them?" And I'm like, "Look, I've never really been a big fan of Cat to begin with, and then you throw Gobert into the mix, and it's like, ew, no, thank you." And then I don't like Kyle Anderson, and they signed him, and I'm just like, "You guys are laying
Slow
it on
mo.
thick." Yeah, I'm not a fan of this roster. So they just kind of took a bunch of players that I don't like and put them all on the same team, but yeah, not a fan of them, and would love to see the Kings and the Kings fans celebrate their success by, go ahead and clinch in that berth. And they've just missed like 2 opportunities to go ahead and clinch it, I think. So I saw some of their fans fussing about how um, they felt like they wanted to wait to clinch the berth at home because they could have had a chance to win the previous game or something like that. I don't know. And it's like, all right, you think the players are really like, let's not win this game because we want to win at home to clinch the berth, and then they go out there and lose? Like, it's
When
not
you
a
haven't made
thing.
the playoffs since TRL was popular on MTV, you should not be waiting to clinch a playoff berth at home. Just get it done. And then I
Just get
think it
it
just takes
done.
the pressure off you knowing that you're in, and then you could worry about everything else. But
Exactly.
when you look at the Pelicans schedule here now in the final 6, it's
Mhm.
tough. This is where we're going to figure out what team we have heading into the postseason. If there is a postseason, look, the 5-game winning streak was great, and they're in
Mhm.
8th, but that doesn't mean that they've solidified a spot, especially with how clumped up everyone is. And Dallas against in there just a game behind you. When you have Denver tomorrow night, then you come back home, Clippers Saturday, then the Kings, then
Mhm.
the Grizzlies, then the Knicks, and then
Man.
those Minnesota Timberwolves. All those games can mean something for the other team. Knicks
Yeah.
are trying to fight stay in fifth, sixth, hang in there. Yeah, the Timberwolves, I think in that game, that could be deciding factor for seventh, eighth, or ninth when you're talking about these two teams.
Mhm.
Grizzlies are still fighting with seeding, with not only trying to hold off the Kings, but also the Denver Nuggets, as they're 3 games
Mhm.
back of the Nuggets right now. And who knows what could be what can change there on the fifth.
Yeah.
And then you have the Kings and Clippers. I mean, again, all these games are going to mean something for every single team. So the last six is not easy. The good thing is that 4 of the last 6 are at home, but
Mhm.
nonetheless, I mean, it is crunch time for this Pelican squad, and let's see what they can do here in the final 6. But man, that's what makes last night so frustrating, because you could have had another game, another win, another chance to get a little bit of cushion. But now again, the pressure's on, and 2-2 in the road trip's not terrible. But when it
Mhm.
could have been 3-1, and it still could be 3-1, which is nice, you're giving yourself a
Yeah,
position to win the road trip, which is all you can really ask for.
for
But you
sure.
just let one slip away, even if it's the defending champs. You had them. You had all the momentum. They looked completely lost in that first half, unmotivated, just looked out without any energy. Draymond was really the only one that had any sort of intensity, and then
Yeah.
the switch flipped in quarters 3 and 4, and pretty disappointing how things ended.
Yeah, I couldn't wait for that first half to end, and then once things started going bad, maybe towards the end of the third, I'm like, "Look, we gotta get this game over with, man. Let's just get out of here." Like, please, before someone starts an actual fight, you throw a punch, you end up getting ejected, suspended, whatever. Like, we can't afford any of that. So that was one of those games where I was ready for it to be over. But last 6 games, they're 5-1. They haven't done that well in 30 or so games. Um, they're still trending in the right direction. So take care of business against the Nuggets if you can. They are the number one team in the West, and they've been pretty consistent all season, and they're healthy. And then let's bring it home on Saturday and have a good old time.
Yeah, Brandon Ingram does like playing in Ball Arena. Um, they've had some success there in Denver the
Hmm.
last few years. It's not really scared them with the altitude. Luckily, it's
Hmm.
not a back to back. There's so many factors and
Yeah.
advantages for Denver, because what people don't know is the airport is like 30 to 40 minutes away from downtown. So if it was a back to back,
Yeah.
coming in, having to drive all the way downtown and play another game, it just would have been a lot tougher. Now that they get the full day off, I'm sure they're traveling today,
Mm.
getting there, get acclimated, and they'll have a day off, obviously, because they played back to back, and then get ready to go against Denver. But they've had some success. I mean, remember Christmas a few years ago?
Hmm.
They had some. I mean, they've been playing pretty well in Denver. So I mean, it's definitely a winnable game for this Pelicans team. It's how angry are they going to be?
Yeah.
Can they play a complete 48 minutes? The offense can't just slow down in the fourth quarter, and your best player not show up in that fourth and not play. And it might not. I don't want to say he didn't show up. It just
Hmm.
was not working the way it should have been,
Yeah.
like they did in the first 3 quarters. So, um, we'll see what happens. But
Yeah. How do they
not do
respond?
not
That's the question.
how will they respond? Not doom and gloom, but
No.
also not, throwing a parade today, on this Wednesday as we get ready for the end of the week. So, I'm looking forward to it. I'm assuming you'll be inside the arena on Saturday against the Clippers
In the flesh.
in the flesh. We'll make sure you stop by and say hello to Rel. If you see her, we'll have plenty more shows to get through next week. We'll have games to recap, Nuggets and Clippers, and everything else. Of course, we appreciate you stopping by. Remember, like, subscribe, click, email, tell everyone, listen to Pels and Whistles, your source for everything New Orleans Pelicans. And we'll talk to you next week. For Rel, I'm Daniel. Thanks for listening to Pels and Whistles presented by Bet Online right here on the Believe Network.